The massive crystal dome of the Galactic Council headquarters sparkled under the light of 3 moons. Inside, Ambassador Tom Reed adjusted his tie for the 10th time, trying to calm his nerves. He was the only human in a room filled with over 200 alien species, and today marked the 50th anniversary of Earth's discovery by the galactic community. The annual Planetary Classification Conference was usually a boring affair. Most species sent junior representatives to sit through endless presentations about atmospheric compositions and geological surveys. But this year felt different. Tom had noticed the strange looks and whispered conversations that stopped whenever he walked past groups of aliens. "Attention, delegates," announced Council Elder Max, his translucent tentacles waving gently as he spoke. "We now begin the nomination phase for our planetary classifications." Tom settled into his oversized chair, designed for a species much larger than humans, and prepared for several hours of monotonous proceedings. He pulled out his datapad, which displayed a message from Dr. K back on Earth, asking how the conference was going. Before he could reply, something unexpected happened. "We nominate Earth," called out Observer Pat, rising from their seat. Their silvery scales caught the light as they moved. For the category of most terrifying planet, the chamber erupted in murmurs and clicking sounds. Tom's datapad clattered to the floor. In 50 years of Earth's membership in the galactic community, they had never been nominated for any category, let alone this one. "Order, please." Elder Max's voice boomed through the chamber. "Observer Pat, you may present your evidence for this nomination." The alien scientists glided to the central platform, their movements fluid and graceful. A holographic display sprang to life behind them, showing images of Earth. "Honorable delegates," Observer Pat began, "I have spent 20 Earth years studying this remarkable planet and its dominant species. What I have discovered has both frightened and fascinated me." The first image showed a group of humans running a marathon. These creatures willingly engage in long-distance running, pushing their bodies to the point of complete exhaustion, for fun. Several delegates gasped in horror. They exposed themselves to extreme temperatures. The next image showed people in a sauna, followed by others taking ice baths, switching between hot and cold environments that would kill most species, and they claim this improves their health. Tom wanted to interrupt, to explain that these were normal human activities, but protocol required him to wait until the presentation was complete. But most terrifying of all, Observer Pat continued, their voice dropping to a dramatic whisper, is their response to capsaicin. The hologram displayed a human eating a ghost pepper. The chamber erupted in chaos. Several delegates fled the room, others activated their personal shield generators, and one species began their emergency hibernation protocol. "That's right," Observer Pat confirmed. "Humans intentionally consume chemical irritants that their own bodies recognize as dangerous. They have turned pain into a pleasurable experience they call spicy food." Tom noticed Elder Max's tentacles had changed color from their usual serene blue to a worry purple. The council elder cleared their throat, or what passed for one, and spoke. "Ambassador Reed, would you care to address these disturbing observations?" Standing up, Tom straightened his jacket and walked to the platform. He could feel hundreds of alien eyes, optical sensors, and other sensory organs following his movement. As he reached the center, he pulled something from his pocket, a small bottle of hot sauce he always carried with him. The entire assembly flinched as one. Someone in the back of the room fainted with a soft thud. "Honorable delegates," Tom said with a smile, "before I begin my explanation, would anyone like to try some? I find it goes great with almost any food in the galaxy." The resulting panic caused the session to be adjourned for 3 hours, while the ventilation system was thoroughly checked for contamination, and several species received anxiety medication. Tom sat alone in the delegates' lounge, enjoying his now perfectly spiced lunch, wondering how they would react when they learned about human music festivals, extreme sports, and horror movies. This was going to be an interesting conference indeed. When the Planetary Classification Conference resumed, Tom Reed noticed that the other delegates had rearranged their seats to maintain a safe distance from him. Only Elder Max and Observer Pat remained relatively close to the human section, though even they seemed nervous. "We will now continue with further evidence regarding Earth's nomination," Elder Max announced, his tentacles still showing traces of purple anxiety. "The committee will hear from multiple observers who have studied human behavior." A tall alien with crystalline features approached the platform. "I am Researcher Blue, and I studied human hunting practices." The holographic display activated, showing prehistoric cave paintings. Unlike most predator species, humans didn't rely on superior strength or speed. Instead, they used something far more terrifying: persistence. The images shifted to show human tribal hunters. They simply followed their prey, hour after hour, day after day, never letting the target rest. They walked their food to death. The researcher's crystal body shimmered with distress. The prey animals died from pure exhaustion, knowing the whole time that the slow-moving death called humanity was always behind them. Several delegates shuddered. One species of plant-based aliens began photosynthesizing at a higher rate, their equivalent of nervous eating. Next came a stocky, reptilian alien wearing what looked like a doctor's coat. "I am Medical Observer Green, and I study human recovery abilities." The screen showed hospital footage. Humans can survive losing large amounts of blood. They can live with missing limbs. Their bones actually grow back stronger after breaking. They sleep every day, becoming unconscious for hours, and consider this normal. The chamber filled with horrified whispers. Tom tried to raise his hand to explain, but another researcher was already taking the platform. "Most disturbing," said the new speaker, a floating cloud of gas contained in a transparent suit, "is their deliberate pursuit of physical suffering for self-improvement. They call it exercise." The display showed a gym. Humans repeatedly damage their muscle fibers, causing micro-tears that heal stronger. They do this for fun. Some even pay money to access special chambers of self-inflicted torture they call fitness centers. Tom finally got his chance to speak. "Honorable delegates, please. These are natural human behaviors that help us stay healthy and..." "Healthy?" echoed through the chamber as hundreds of aliens expressed their shock in various languages. "There's more." Observer Pat returned to the platform. "Show them the footage from what humans call a playground." The hologram displayed children playing on swings and slides. They train their young to defy gravity, to embrace heights, to enjoy the rush of falling. Observer Pat's scales had turned a pale white. And worst of all, they laugh while doing it. The recording sound system played the sounds of children's laughter, causing several delegates to activate emergency meditation protocols. And yet, added Medical Observer Green, these same terrifying creatures can form deep emotional bonds with other species. The screen showed people playing with dogs and cats. They take predator species into their homes, give them names, and call them good boys and good girls. Tom couldn't help but smile, thinking of his own dog back on Earth. His smile made 3 delegates quickly leave the room. Elder Max raised all 4 of his hands for silence. "Ambassador Reed, would you care to explain why humans domesticate predator species as pets?" "Well," Tom said, pulling out his phone, "I happen to have some pictures of my dog Max, named after you, Elder Max, as a sign of respect." The elder's tentacles turned a deep purple again. "Perhaps we should take another break." And Ambassador Reed, "Yes, Elder. Please stop smiling. It shows your teeth, and we've already had enough cardiac events for one day." As the chamber cleared out, Tom heard one alien whisper to another, "Did you know they keep their teeth in their heads all the time? They don't even remove them for sleeping." Tom sighed and sat back down. They hadn't even gotten to the really interesting parts yet, like human medical procedures, action movies, or roller coasters. This was going to be a very long day. After the break, the conference chamber had been modified. A thick, transparent barrier now separated Tom from the other delegates, though he wasn't sure if it was for their protection or his. The next phase of evidence was about to begin, the scientific analysis of human physiology. A group of alien scientists wearing protective suits approached the platform. Their leader, a being who looked like a walking collection of glowing orbs, stepped forward. "I am Chief Scientist Ray." The alien's orbs pulsed with each word. "Our team has spent 10 years studying human biological functions. Our findings are disturbing." The holographic display showed a detailed scan of a human body. Several delegates moved even further back in their seats. "Humans have an internal skeleton made of regenerating calcium deposits," Ray continued. "But that's not the worst part. Their healing process is nothing short of horrifying. When injured, they grow new flesh. They replace their skin. They produce new blood. They are constantly rebuilding themselves." Elder Max's tentacles curled tightly. "You mean they're like living construction sites?" "Precisely." Ray's orbs flickered frantically, and their bodies contain a substance called adrenaline that gives them temporary super strength. They can lift vehicles, break down doors, and ignore severe injuries when this chemical floods their system. Tom raised his hand. "That's just our fight-or-flight response. It's a survival mechanism. They can choose BT2E in fighting and Ruyumenying aid way," someone shouted from the back. Several delegates began updating their emergency protocols. A new scientist stepped forward, this one appearing as a floating collection of geometric shapes. "I studied human psychology," they said. "Humans create strong emotional bonds with virtually anything. They name their vehicles, talk to their plants, and feel sad for broken machines. They even bond with artificial intelligences that they know aren't real." The display showed humans crying at movies, hugging stuffed animals, and talking to their computers. "But surely," Elder Max interrupted, "this emotional behavior makes them weak." On the contrary, the scientists' shapes spun anxiously. "It makes them more dangerous. Humans will fight to protect anything they've bonded with. They'll risk their lives for their pets, their possessions, or even complete strangers they feel sympathy for." Tom watched as the aliens tried to process this information. He could almost see their minds struggling with the concept of empathy being a weapon. Another scientist, who looked like a walking library of scrolls, took the platform. "Let's discuss their environment," they rustled. "Earth has multiple climate zones. Humans can survive in all of them. Desert heat. They drink water and continue. Arctic cold. They make artificial skins they call clothes and keep going. Their planet regularly tries to kill them with storms, earthquakes, and volcanic eruptions. Their response: they build houses stronger. They create warning systems. They treat natural disasters as mere inconveniences." The chamber fell silent as images of humans rebuilding after natural disasters flashed across the screen. "And consider this," the scientist continued, their scrolls trembling. "They live on a planet with extreme gravitational forces compared to most habitable worlds. This makes them naturally stronger than many species. When they venture to lower gravity environments, they must exercise constantly just to prevent their muscles from becoming too powerful." Tom noticed Elder Max watching him with new interest. The Elder's tentacles had shifted to a color he hadn't seen before. Was that respect? "One final note," Chief Scientist Ray added. "Humans require regular periods of unconsciousness they call sleep, during which they experience vivid hallucinations they call dreams. Sometimes these dreams are unpleasant. They call these nightmares. And do you know what they do about these horrifying mental experiences?" The room waited in fearful silence. "They write them down, turn them into stories, and share them with others for entertainment." The barrier between Tom and the delegates suddenly didn't seem thick enough for many of the audience members. As the scientists concluded their presentation, Tom heard one alien whisper to another, "No wonder they're not afraid of us. Their own bodies are scarier than anything we could ever be." The conference chamber's mood shifted as a new presenter took the platform. This one was a tall, book-shaped alien with pages for limbs, known as the historical record keeper. Let us examine humanity's technological progression, they began, rustling importantly. Most species take approximately 50,000 years to advance from simple tools to space travel. Humans did it in less than 10,000 years. The holographic display showed a rapid sequence of human inventions, from stone axes to smartphones. Several delegates took notes with shaking appendages. They went from their first powered flight to landing on their moon in just 66 years. The record keeper continued. Many species thought they were making a computational error when they first saw this data. Tom noticed Elder Max's tentacles twisting in what looked like mathematical disbelief. But more concerning than their speed of advancement, the record keeper's pages fluttered anxiously, is what they do for entertainment. The display changed to show a movie theater. Humans gather in dark rooms to watch stories designed to frighten them. They call this horror movies. They pay money to be scared. Observer Pat, who had been quiet until now, jumped in. Show them the roller coaster footage. The screen filled with images of theme parks. Screaming humans trapped into metal cars, rushing down steep tracks at high speeds. They built these machines specifically to trigger their fight-or-flight response, Observer Pat explained. Those screams you hear, that's their sound of enjoyment. Impossible, shouted someone from the audience. No species would willingly simulate near-death experiences for pleasure. Tom tried not to laugh as the next images appeared, skydivers and bungee jumpers falling from great heights. Oh, it gets worse, the record keeper continued. They also have something called music. They played a clip of a rock concert. They use synchronized sound waves to induce emotional responses and physical movement. Sometimes thousands gather to experience this together. The chamber erupted in chaos as the heavy metal concert footage played. Several delegates covered their sensory organs, while others began emergency meditation sequences. And sports, Observer Pat added quickly. They invented hundreds of games where they run, jump, throw things, and deliberately crash into each other. Some of these athletes can kick objects so hard they break the sound barrier. Tom watched as the aliens tried to process the concept of soccer. But surely, Elder Max interrupted, his tentacles now a confused swirl of colors. These must be rare behaviors practiced by only a few humans. The record keeper's pages rustled negatively. No, Elder. These activities are global phenomena. Billions participate. They even have something called social media, where they share videos of themselves doing increasingly dangerous things for something called likes. The display showed a montage of viral challenge videos. The chamber grew so quiet, you could hear the aliens' various breathing apparatuses working overtime. And yet, the record keeper noted, despite all this apparent madness, they've never had a major interplanetary war. They haven't conquered their weaker neighbors. Instead, they spend enormous resources on something called space exploration. They send robots to other planets just to learn about them. Tom stood up, causing several delegates to flinch. That's right, he said proudly. We're not interested in conquest. We just want to learn, to understand, to explore. Sometimes that means doing things that seem scary, but it's all in the spirit of discovery. The record keeper's pages trembled. They find everything fascinating, even the things that could kill them, especially the things that could kill them. They have entire television channels dedicated to dangerous animals. As if to prove the point, Tom's phone suddenly buzzed with a notification. The screen showed his weekly reminder to watch Shark Week. Several delegates fainted when they realized humans regularly dedicated 7 days to learning about their planet's apex predators, for fun. After all the evidence against humanity had been presented, Elder Max's tentacles turned a formal shade of blue. Ambassador Reed, you may now present Earth's defense. Tom walked to the platform, noticing how the protective barrier sparkled under the chamber's lights. He took a deep breath and smiled, causing several delegates to duck behind their seats. Honorable members of the Galactic Council, he began, everything you've heard today is true. We humans do all these things that seem terrifying to you. But let me show you why these traits make us not just scary, but also wonderful. He pressed a button, and a holographic display showed a hospital operating room. Several delegates prepared to flee, but Tom raised his hand. Please watch. This is important. Yes, we cut people open. He continued as the screen showed surgery. But we do it to save lives. Those same terrifying healing abilities you mentioned. They've helped us develop medicines that can now cure diseases that once killed millions. The display shifted to show doctors delivering babies, performing transplants, and helping patients recover. Our horrifying ability to survive trauma led us to understand how bodies work. Now we can replace damaged hearts, restore sight to the blind, and help the paralyzed walk again. Some of the aliens began to lower their defensive shields, watching with growing interest. You mentioned our love of extreme sports and challenging ourselves. Tom changed the display to show mountain climbers. That same drive led us to space. The image changed to astronauts on the moon. We climb mountains because they're there, and we go to space because it's there. Our curiosity is stronger than our fear. Elder Max's tentacles shifted to a thoughtful shade of green. But what about your habit of bonding with everything? Tom smiled again, this time gentler. Let me show you something beautiful. The display showed various scenes, people helping injured animals, cleaning up oceans, planting trees, and rebuilding homes after disasters. We don't just bond with things we like. We feel responsible for them. When we see something broken, we want to fix it. When we see someone hurting, we want to help. Yes, we name our cars and talk to our plants. But that same tendency means we fight to protect endangered species and work to preserve ecosystems. He switched the display to show scientific laboratories. Our terrifying speed of technological advancement. We use it to solve problems. Right now, humans are working on ways to clean the oceans, reverse climate change, and yes, help other species reach the stars. The chamber had grown quietly attentive. Even observer Pat's scales had taken on a curious golden color. You mentioned our ability to withstand extreme environments, Tom continued. This adaptability means we understand change. We know things can be different, better. When we see a problem, we don't just accept it. We try to solve it. The final images showed humans from around Earth, working together, helping each other, celebrating together. Yes, we're persistent hunters. It means we don't give up easily. Yes, we eat spicy food. It shows we can learn to find joy in challenge. Yes, we seek out new experiences, even scary ones, because we believe understanding is better than fear. Tom noticed some of the delegates nodding thoughtfully. Even the security barrier had been lowered slightly. Most importantly, he said, his voice growing passionate, all these terrifying traits come together to make us excellent problem solvers. We face challenges head-on. We adapt. We survive. And we do it all while trying to help others survive too. He gestured to the diverse crowd of aliens. Look around this room. Every species here evolved differently, developed differently. And humans, we want to learn from all of you. Yes, we might seem scary, but that same intensity drives us to explore, to understand, to connect, and to protect. The chamber remained silent for a long moment. Then Elder Max's tentacles turned a color Tom had never seen before. Was that admiration? The Galactic Council moved into its deliberation phase. Tom sat in his designated area while various alien species discussed Earth's nomination. The protective barrier had been completely removed, and he noticed some delegates actually moving closer to the human section. Elder Max floated to the center platform, his tentacles now displaying a professional mix of blues and greens. We will now review all nominated planets for the most terrifying planet category. First, let us consider Planet Doom in the Skull Nebula. The holographic display showed a massive gas giant with storms 3 times the size of Earth. Lightning bolts the size of continents crackled across its surface. An impressive nominee, observer Pat commented, their scales flickering thoughtfully. Those storms could destroy most spacecraft. Next, Elder Max continued, "We have the jungle world of Hunter's Paradise." The display showed a planet covered in dense vegetation, where massive predators roamed freely. Some of them could swallow small ships whole. Tom watched as various delegates presented their cases. There was a planet with acid rain that could melt through metal, another with gravity so strong it crushed most life forms, and one that was basically a giant volcano in space. "These are all valid nominations," Elder Max noted, his tentacles swaying. "But they share one common trait. Their terrifying aspects are purely physical. Earth, on the other hand." "Earth is different," interrupted a crystalline being from the science committee. "Their terrifying qualities are cultural and behavioral. They chose to be this way." The chamber buzzed with discussion. Tom heard fragments of conversations. "Did you know they have something called hot sauce competitions? I heard they run long distances just to prove they can. My research shows they watch documentaries about deep-sea creatures. For relaxation." Elder Max raised all four hands for silence. "We must also consider their positive achievements. No other species has developed medicine quite like humans." "True," added observer Pat. "Most species either focus on technology or emotional development. Humans somehow do both simultaneously. They build spaceships while writing poetry about them." A holographic expert floated forward. "Their entertainment industry alone shows incredible creativity. They imagine things that don't exist, then work to make them real. Many of our recent technological advances were inspired by human science fiction." "But surely," argued a shadow-like being, "their dangerous qualities outweigh their achievements." "Do they?" Elder Max's tentacles turned a philosophical purple. "Look at their history. Despite having these terrifying abilities, humans primarily use them for exploration and advancement, not conquest." The debate continued as different species shared their experiences with humans. A plant-based alien admitted that human gardening techniques had helped save several endangered species on their world. An aquatic delegate praised human ocean conservation efforts. "Perhaps," suggested a wise-looking alien made of pure light, "what makes Earth truly terrifying is not their capabilities, but their potential. They can be anything they choose to be." Tom listened as the chamber erupted in new discussions. He heard words like adaptable, resilient, and unpredictable being used more often than scary or dangerous. Elder Max called for order once again. "We have heard all arguments. Now we must vote. Remember, the title of Most Terrifying Planet is not just about fear. It's about respect, potential, and impact on the galactic community." The voting process began. Each species had their own unique way of casting their vote. Some used energy pulses, others sent chemical signals, and a few communicated through complex color patterns. Tom sat quietly, watching the process. He noticed something interesting. The species that had spent the most time studying humans were voting first, and they all seemed to be voting the same way. As the final votes were being tallied, Elder Max's tentacles turned a color Tom had never seen before, one that seemed to combine anticipation, appreciation, and just a hint of lingering fear. The great crystal dome of the Galactic Council headquarters sparkled with a special brilliance during the award ceremony. All protective barriers had been removed, and Tom noticed with amusement that several alien species were now sitting voluntarily in the human section. Elder Max floated to the central platform, all four of his arms raised for attention. His tentacles glowed with ceremonial patterns of blue and gold. "Distinguished delegates," he began, "we have reached our decision for this year's Most Terrifying Planet Award. For the first time in galactic history, the award goes to Earth." The chamber erupted in a cacophony of alien applause. Everything from light shows to gravity pulses to melodic hums. Tom stood up, straightened his tie, and walked toward the platform. "However," Elder Max continued, his tentacles switching to an amused purple, "we feel we must explain something to our human friends. You see, Ambassador Reed, this award isn't quite what you might think." Tom paused mid-step. "What do you mean?" Observer Pat glided forward, their scales now a bright, friendly gold. In our galactic community, being terrifying isn't a negative quality. It's one of our highest honors. You see, the crystalline scientist added, species that inspire fear often possess the greatest potential for change and growth. Throughout galaxy history, the most terrifying species have become our greatest innovators, explorers, and problem solvers. Tom looked at the award floating in front of him, a beautiful crystal structure that seemed to capture and amplify light from every angle. So when you say terrifying, we mean extraordinary, Elder Max explained. A species that challenges our understanding, pushes boundaries, and forces us to think differently. Humans do this simply by being themselves. The holographic display activated one final time, showing a montage of human achievements, medical breakthroughs, space exploration, environmental conservation, artistic creations, and countless moments of humans helping each other and other species. Your seemingly scary traits, Elder Max continued, are exactly what the galaxy needs right now. Your persistence in solving problems, your ability to adapt to any situation, your curious minds that seek out new challenges. These are precious qualities. Tom finally reached for the award, and as he touched it, it changed color to match his emotions, a swirl of joy, pride, and humor. In recognition of Earth's unique contributions, Elder Max announced, we are also appointing humans to lead several key Galactic Council initiatives. We need your problem-solving abilities, your creativity, and yes, even your terrifying tendency to make friends with everything you meet. The chamber filled with approving sounds from hundreds of different species. Tom noticed that even the delegates who had fled from him earlier were now watching with interest and respect. To celebrate this occasion, Tom said with a grin, I'd like to invite everyone to a traditional human celebration. We've prepared food, music, and something we call party games. Several aliens gasped when Tom mentioned games, but their fear now seemed mixed with curiosity. And yes, he added, pulling out his favorite hot sauce, I brought enough of this for everyone who's interested in trying it. Elder Max's tentacles rippled with laughter. You see, this is exactly why humans won. Any other species would try to seem less frightening after being called terrifying. Humans, they invite everyone to experience what makes them unique. As the ceremony turned into a celebration, Tom watched aliens cautiously trying spicy foods, listening to music, and even attempting to dance. A group of crystalline beings were particularly fascinated by the concept of limbo. You know what the really terrifying thing is, Observer Pat said, approaching Tom with their scales showing a pattern of joy. We think you humans haven't even reached your full potential yet. You're still evolving, still growing, still learning. Tom looked around at the interplanetary party, smiled, and raised his hot sauce-spiced drink in a toast to being terrifyingly awesome. The entire chamber echoed with hundreds of species attempting to pronounce awesome in their own unique ways, and somewhere in the background, someone had started playing the Macarena.